Well, here it is. Godzilla vs. Kong. The long-awaited showdown between these two cinema Goliaths is finally here. After all the hype, we finally got the payoff we've been waiting for. And let me tell you, I don't know what I was expecting, but it wasn't. Godzilla vs. Kong is a direct sequel to both Kong Skull Island and Godzilla King of the Monsters, who would have guessed it, that takes place in the near future of the latter. A future where Kong is now in the Hunger Games arena, Godzilla is on his post-menopausal tirade, and the characters matter about as much as the sludge beneath my boot. This movie follows old characters like Madison Russell and her dad, whatever his name was, as well as new characters like Dr. Nathan Lind and the Monsterverse Alex Jones, in a story where Apex Cybernetics is concocting some evil scheme that leads to these two larger-than-life monsters to duel in the world's largest challenge-pissing contest. So, here's the deal. The one central criticism I hold against the Monsterverse is just how bland and boring any of the scenes with the characters are. This movie takes that to a whole new level, but in a really weird way. This time around, I really felt like any scene involving people was the most insufferable and bad out of the last 4 movies we've seen by far. With that said, it also felt like the least of consequence if you decided to tune them out and just pay attention to the good stuff, because that's almost exactly what I did. I mean, I still paid attention, of course, but after about the 14th joke about tap water, pretty much everything the characters were saying just became, which definitely makes sense considering the team behind this. We've got the guy behind the live-action Death Note movie, and also one of the guys who wrote Shrek, which, like, okay. Needless to say, it's not exactly what I would call compelling. What is compelling is pretty much everything else. Genuinely, I'm just really taken aback by whatever it is that's going on here. I think it's pretty fair to say that the last 3 movies in this series were pretty grounded, at least when it comes to their stories, right? Like, what would happen if these monsters existed in our world? That kind of a deal. This movie, on the other hand, decided to take what I thought was a throwaway joke from King of the Monsters and make it into an essential plot point. I won't jump too into spoiler territory for the people that haven't seen it yet, but it's pretty wild, man. At least for what we've seen, like, this is just completely out of nowhere. While the other movies are pretty contained and tame, this one is just a Shrek meets Cyberpunk meets Journey to the Center of the Earth with Godzilla and Kong thrown in for good measure. It was one of those plots I had to double check on Wikipedia just to be sure I had everything right. It hardly even feels like it's part of the same Monsterverse, and actually feels more in line with what a Showa-era Hollywood Godzilla movie would feel like. It's just really goofy and dumb, and it doesn't take itself seriously at all. Although, don't get me wrong, right? I think that's a good thing. I mean, this is a movie about 2 big dumb f***ers fighting. Like, who wants to take this seriously? Speaking of which, let's just go ahead and talk about that. The actual marquee event. Did it deliver? Was it fun? Yes. Pretty much any scene where these two are fighting is rock solid. The drop kicks, the axe, the recall to Kong shoving a tree down Godzilla's stupid throat, all of that was super fun. Not to mention the striking visuals of this super cyberpunky Hong Kong that added a whole new layer of allure to this fight. It's weird, but I'll take it, man. And let me tell you, I truly did shed a tear when Kong hit the nay-nay and Godzilla retorted by whipping. I couldn't believe my eyes. What was kind of interesting was how they set up Kong as being the movie's protagonist and made Godzilla feel needlessly antagonistic. Strange decision considering how we've seen the Monsterverse play out and the pretty obvious twist coming from a mile away, but it was still a ton of fun. The fight between these two is easily up there with the end fight in King of the Monsters as the best Monsterverse fight. It's a shining example of what I enjoy about these movies and why I keep on coming back to them in the first place. So, ultimately, I'm just very lost as to how to feel about this movie. It's one of extremes for me in being extremely entertaining at some points, and extremely boring in others. I'm not too sure how I feel about this whole Showa era feeling because it really just doesn't have the same charm to me. When it came to the Showa era itself, the goofiness was matched with a shorter runtime, less character moments, and big dumb rubber suits. But when it becomes Hollywoodized, it just kind of feels like the heart of it is missing to me. That isn't to say that I don't feel like the people behind it didn't put their hearts into it though. It just kind of seems like this movie was damned from the start, thanks to the pretty inconsistent build to the Monsterverse as is. So they just said f it and made this. And as it stands right now, I'm seeing all sorts of opinions about this movie. Every extreme from it being amazing to terrible. From the poll I ran on my channel, it seems like the majority of you loved it, but there's also the small minority that seems like they were left disappointed. I can't help but feel like that minority is going to grow more and more over time. But who knows, maybe I'm wrong here. I've only seen this movie one time, so maybe my opinion will change over time. It's more than likely I'll be back with a more proper, in-depth review down the line anyway. But for now, I'm honestly just kind of tired of telling people to skip the first hour and a half and just watch the last 30 or so minutes. If you ask me, that's just no way to watch a movie. But at the same time, Kong bonking Godzilla over the head with an axe is truly fucking epic. But I very much feel like I'm in that minority of people left disappointed by this movie. Considering how successful this movie has been so far and just how much buzz it's gotten, I'm not sure if this is truly going to be the last Monsterverse movie. Hopefully it's not, and Legendary can keep learning and making better movies with each release. But at the same time, man, I would really love to see that Monsterverse that Toho was setting up. I am genuinely curious though. Please do let me know what you thought of this movie down in the comments below. I'll definitely be reading them and seeing if maybe there's something I just missed. Like I said, this probably won't be the last time I tackle this movie, and we'll see where my opinion is maybe a few months down the line. Regardless, thanks for watching this video. It's been a fun ride covering the Monsterverse, but it's about time I got to talk about something new too. Not to mention Godzilla's Singular Point is just on the horizon, and I'm sure I'll be talking about that too. But until then, I'll see you all next.
Anyway, it's about a monkey. And this monkey was sitting up high in a tree, and he's sitting up there, and he'd rolled up a joint, and he'd lit that thing off, man. He's sitting there toking on it, and this little lizard comes up the way and comes up the tree and sits down next to the monkey. And the lizard looks at the monkey and says, "Hey man, what are you doing?" And the monkey said, "Well, I'm smoking a joint."